Williams, and this is Martha. I'm the co-office ambassador. And as I was thinking about what to talk about today, I'm like, oh, what can I talk about? And I'm like, the only thing that I'm sort of know for sure is who I am. And I'm an African woman. I was going to say lady, a girl, but I'm an African woman. And I thought I want to talk about that. And something that, I apologize, she's going to be a nightmare. She just dropped her apple, so I'm just going to go and reach it. Just give me a few seconds. Right, here we go. So I'm an African woman, and something that has always been a part of me is my name. Obviously, if I say Lizette Williams, that doesn't really sound much African, does it? Williams, we all know it's British and it's Welsh. But what you don't know is Lizette actually is my middle name. My first name is Dina, so it will be Dina Lizette Williams. It's something that I struggle with. So on Facebook, and recently I've been going by the name of D Lizette Williams, so I can hide the Dina because it sounds a bit too African, and then sometimes I don't really like it. But recently I've gone back to just being Dina Lizette Williams, and so as I say, yes, I struggled with, especially when I came to the UK, where Dina became Dinner Lady, dinner time, and that kind of stuff. And that really bothered me because it's my nan's name and I love the name. But when you ask people teasing them like dinner time, and like, oh, so I started hating the name. And slowly, because most people knew me as Lizette, so dinner started disappearing. So I just become Lizette or whatever my name was before, Williams. And the other part of my name is my maiden name. So before Paul proposed to me, I was Dina Lizette Lingyabudi. So that's a hard one to say. So imagine at school and having a register going and it gets to my name. I usually tell them, yeah, I'm here, even before she says my name, or they say my name. I never let them finish, like, even stuff like, yeah, I'm here, even at the hospital. And you have some people who actually find it a challenge. So they were like sitting there trying to say it so they can actually like, I'll be like, lan, jan, ja, li, ji, la, la. I'm like, Lingya Budi, but they still want to say it. They still want to, I'm like, no, you don't need to say it. It's fine. I get it. It's me, but they still want a challenge of saying Lingya Budi. So these are the African names that I've been given and I've been stuck with, and I go up to hate and love at the same time. And I thought, why not explore that tonight? The ways that African people name the children themselves as well and everything. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Let's talk about African names. And Dina, I've grown up to learn that actually it's from the Bible. Anyone know of Jacob's daughter called Dina? I think she's the only daughter of Jacob, so she's called Dina. She's the one who got raped, I think, as well. And the brothers went out at night and killed everybody else who raped the sister. So yeah, she's called Dina. So you find that in the story of Jacob. So I'm like, oh, so it is a biblical name. So I was quite happy about that. But I was named after my nan on my dad's side. So mostly in Africa, we have a tradition of giving your first child, your firstborn, you need to name them after the dad's side of the family. And then if it's your second child, it's after the mom's side of the family. So that's how it works, mostly on my country anyway. So the first child is usually named after dad's side. The second child is after the mom's side. So Dina, my mom, my dad's mom, my dad's mom's name, so my grandmother's name. And there's like 10 of us in my dad's family. So pretty much there's not a girls called Dina, there's quite a few of us. So it's like, oh, you're Dina as well. So I'm discovering more and more Dinas around. So that's that. And Lizette, my mom's side of the family gave me that name. And when I did a very trying to find out what Lizette means, it simply comes from a form of Elizabeth. I didn't know that. Like, okay, that's nice. I could be called Elizabeth. I like that. And Yabui means, are you ready for this? Lingabudi means leave me alone. And my uncle used to tease me. He used to say, you would never get married because with that surname, there's no way you're going to find a guy. And I'm like, well, my dad found a woman. He's married. So surely if he finds someone with that name, I can find someone with that name. But he used to tease me. And because I took forever to find someone, it's like, yeah, there's no way you're going to find someone with that surname. But eventually I found someone. And I use that name as well. Sometimes like, I was just, Lingya Budi. So just like leave me alone. So that's my African name that I've stayed with. And with that, when Paul and I found out I was pregnant and we were going to try to find a name and find it was a girl, but we need to give her a name that will present who she is. So not only is she British, white British, but she's also African. And I really wanted her to have an African name. But I also know that the challenge of having an African name, especially with myself. So I'm like, it has to be a nice, cool name that people will find it easy to pronounce and it won't stand out. And realize that we can't give her as a first name, because if she wants to hide it, she can hide the middle name, because most people don't really use the middle names that often, do we? So we decided that we're going to call her Matondo, which is my language, which means thankfulness. So that's where Martha, so she's Martha Matondo Williams. So Martha Thankfulness Williams. So here we go. So traditional Africans' name often have unique stories behind them. So I just told you about mine. So when I said Lingabudi, it was my dad's uncle's name, and it was named after something happened in the family, and someone was just trying to send a message out. So basically sending a message to the people around them. So that's what they named him, Lingabudi. So leave us alone, or leave me alone. So traditional names have story behind them. From the moment the baby's born, it's maybe of surrounding the circumstances that's going on at the time. It might just be a day of the week. There's just so many reasons why Africans name the kids a certain ways. I'm sure you probably met a lot of Africans with really weird names if you're thinking what's going on. So we're just gonna go through them and just see if you can see any of them anyway. So some names is around event that's happening. So like on my mom's side of the family, she tells a story where her grandmother, so my mom's grandmother, my great grandmother, was having an argument with her son and his wife. So every time my grandmother gave a birth to a child, my great grandmother would name that child according to how she was feeling about her son and her daughter-in-law. So for example, one is called Pangi, which means he's my child. So she's telling her daughter-in-law that the boy that you married, he's my child. And then when that woman had a child, he named him Tidulu, which means he's someone's kid as well. So he's mine. No, so it means he's mine. So my great grandmother was saying he's my son, and then she said he's mine now. So my mom's side of the family, she have cousins and brothers who have weird names according to the time that the thing was going on in the family, according to the arguments that were going on between her grandmother and her uncle. So they have really weird names. And my mom's name she's called Vunana, which means you're lying. So it's so it's weird things like that. So and then they have a family name which is Siona, which means pain. So her grandma was going through pain, so she named them Pain. So at that time they decided that, but my mom says they all had that name Pain, but as they go up and realize that they don't want to be called Pain because they're not in pain all the time, so they're taking that off. So just things like that. And sometimes also they give according to emotions, how they're feeling. For example, if someone is feeling joyful, they will name someone Esengo, which means joy. And Paul and I often talk about it. Like, if we ever have a second daughter, we'll definitely name her Esengo as well, because we like that joy aspect of it. Or sometimes it's just, if they're going through a really hard time, it's Pasi, which is hard time. So they name them after the circumstances. And sometimes some names, when you translate in English, it sounds. So some names, for example, are Hell Force, Kismo, Brilliant, Hatred, No Matter What, Jealous, Hard Life, Furious. So these are, you probably met people with names that you probably have no idea. It probably just means all of this stuff like, what's going on. It was what was going on at a time when they were born. And then the next one that we love, like Africans love doing, is naming the child after celebrity. For example, my uncle, he's called Socrates from the Greek philosopher. So he's that. There's a lot of Michael Jacksons in Africa. A lot of, what's the president in America? Bill Clinton, but they don't say Bill. I'm not going to try to say how they say it in Africa. It's not funny, but they have a lot of Bill Clinton. So a lot of people, and I think the reason what they're trying to get is Donald Trump. People are trying to name the kids Donald Trump. Yes, they are trying to name the kids. So we love anything that's famous. There's Madonna. There is, who else is there? I think it's Boris Johnson, to be honest. So we love anything famous from Europe and stuff. We love taking the names. The next one is the order of birth. So in my culture specifically, and I know that some Africans do that as well, when someone has a twin, the first twin is called Timber. The second twin is called Juicy. So if you met someone in the street and say, my name is Timber, it means that person is a twin. And it's both, it's a unisex name, so both girls and boys can have that. So there could be a boy and a girl called Timber and a boy and a girl called Njuzi. So if you meet a Timber in the street, it's someone that's a twin, and he's the firstborn, the first twin. And if you meet someone that's a Njuzi, that's someone that's a secondborn, so a second twin. And after, if someone has a third child after the twin, they call them Landu. So it means that one came after the twins. And the one after, so the fourth one is called Lukombo. So like my husband, when I met him, he's like, oh, I know someone called Lukombo. What does that mean? I'm like, oh, I need to come with mom to find out. So I come with mom, what does Lukombo mean? Oh, it means that there's twins in his family. So it means that he's probably the fourth child. So there's first the first and the second are the twins, and the third one, and then it's him. He's a combo. This is how sometimes you know people's sort of order of birth. It just happens. And something that I've learned as well is from my Ghanaian friends, that sometimes children are named according to the day they're born. So a lot of my Ghanaian friends have names that are like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Fridays. Just like one of them is Adwa, which is Monday. So that's something that I learned here. But speaking to my mom, she's like, yeah, we do the same as well. We have people who are named according to the day of the week they're born in. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So even me, I find things interesting about my own culture, about the way people name the children and things like that. So that's one of the way. One other favorite way of naming children in Africa is faith-based names. We love anything to do with faith. And my uncle is a champion on that. He makes up his own stuff. It's like there's one called I've Seen God in a Foreign Country. So yeah, he just makes things up. Or the other one is called Thank God for Something. So he names them in French. So it's in French, but it's things like that. So we love anything to do with giving praise to God. So something we call praise the Lord, or thank you God. But obviously in Africa, in African language, it sounds a bit different than in English. So people have loved doing that. And there are some people who are just named by the day or time they're born in. I've not come across anyone across anyone, but my mom has, and she says, yeah, there are people who are named according to whatever time they're born in. So that's the other one. And the other way of naming people is the ancestors as well. So like I said, in Africa, we love sort of, I think we're loyal to our elders for some reason. So we love naming our children after them. So my mom was a bit disappointed I didn't name my daughter after her. I'm like, sorry, I didn't really think about it. But they love naming the children after the grandparents or the dad, mom, and the uncle, things like that. So we love doing that. We love giving them, especially if someone has died, they've gone, and we love doing that. We love giving them the name of the person. So when I named Martha, by her name Martha, I didn't know that we had a Martha in my family, simply because she was called Martha, but in Lingala, which is Malata. So I didn't know that Malata is Martha in English. So when we named her Martha, and I was telling my mom, oh yeah, this is going to be her name, and that, oh yeah, your auntie is called Malata, is called Martha. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So people actually think that I've sort of honored my auntie by giving Martha the name Martha, and I'm like, I had no idea she was called Martha. So they think that she's named after my aunt in Africa. But I just let them think that, it gives me the more points in the family. So I just like, yeah, she's after my auntie. So, so I just let them believe and let them think that Martha is actually called after my auntie. But are you? No, because your dad's had the family, they got more Marthas than we have. Yes, there we go. So that's how they think. Oh, okay. Do you want to come down? She's been a bit annoying. Sorry about that. Here we go. So that's a bit how we name ourselves and things like that. And one thing that we love doing, we love having lots of names. But one thing that really stays with me is, like, especially when I see mom and dad, is in Africa we have names that we call villagers' name. So these are names that we mostly goes on documents, like, you know, legal stuff. So anything to do with passport, school, work, these are the names that will be on paper and stuff. And then we have names that we call home names. So for example, for me, Dina is my village name. It's what goes on all the papers. It's what at school people know me as Dina. At work people know me as Dina. And then in my neighborhood, people will know me as Lizette. So my mum, when someone calls about a certain name, she goes, "Oh, that person, I know them from work, back home, or from school, or from the neighborhood." So it's kind of, I find it quite interesting because it's kind of placing people to where you know them, because sometimes they tend to forget. So when my mom's like, "Oh yeah, I know that person from school or from work," according to the name they called her. And my dad is the same. So they have names that are, oh, my mom is called Vunana. So when someone calls it, I hardly hear that. But when someone calls it Vunana, I know, oh, that person doesn't know her from the neighborhood. That person doesn't know her from like school or from work, because everybody from her neighborhood where she grew up all calls her Marie. That's her home name. So when someone calls her Vunana, automatically I'm like, okay, that person doesn't know my mom. Not that well, but doesn't know my mum from the neighborhood and stuff. That's another way of doing it. And so when we came in the UK, it was kind of hard because you don't put your middle name, as I said, Lizette, in paper. So you just put your first name. So when my dad came, he just put my name down as Dina Williams. So I'm like, well, Dad, that's not how they do things. You have to put a full name because they won't know that my name is actually Dina Lizette Williams. So that's not how things works here. So I have to change my name to Dina Lizette Williams and pay for it as well, which I'm like, oh. But we didn't know that, you know, it's a different culture. We don't do that in Africa. So when you come here, things are different. Math stuff. So these things are different. So we have learned to, so we all had to somehow change our names if we did pull and pay for it, so that we can have those names that people always know us by, but not necessarily in Africa. It doesn't need to go on papers because it's still fine in Africa. We don't really do paperwork really well, but it's fine in Africa. You know, things still happen. So when we got here, we had to change that. No, that's great. So that's what happened to me. So I had to change my name to Dina Lizette Williams. Well, no, Dina Lizette Lingabudi. Then I changed it to Dina Lizette Williams. So that's the thing with me. So I don't really say where I came from. So I've left Africa at the age of 6. So I was born in Angola. I lived in Congo where they speak French. So when I say home, I actually mean 2 countries, because I was born in one, but kind of grew up in one. And both cultures are so similar to each other that there's not much difference to the culture. They're so similar together. I'm just going to show you on the map where they are, so you can have a visual, so you can see how close they are. And we used to be one country. We used to be a United Kingdom. I need to be able to share, just so you can see the map. Let's see. Brilliant. Right. Yeah. Let's see. I don't know if can you see anything? No? What about now? Oh, come on. I'm coming. Well, it's not working, but anyway, Congo is literally on, and if you know your map of Africa, it's near South Africa. So we're not far from South Africa. So Congo is at the top, then you have Angola at the bottom. So I was born in Angola and I grew up in Congo, and they speak French in Congo. So I speak French and I speak Lingala as their mother tongue there. And I speak Portuguese in Angola. But because I left such a young age, I don't speak Portuguese, but some of my families do. And I have family in Congo, I have family in Congo, and I have family in Angola, and I found myself mixed in both countries. We used to be a united country, but colonialism happened, so we split up. So we're called what we call the Bantu people. So I haven't been back home since I left at the age of 6. But in 2017, we went to Kenya. And that's when I realized how Africans were kind of connected, because they were speaking Swahili. And because I speak Lingala, I could pick up on words, on things and stuff like that. but that's just me. I've just forgot to tell you where I was from. So I thought I'd tell you where I'm from. So I am African. I was born there. I left at the age of 6. And obviously, for me, being 6 at a very young age. So I really try my best to sort of hold on to the little stuff that I have, I've got from Africa as a little girl, like my memories and things that I know of. And then hopefully I try, as I'm living here, to maintain that and pass that on to Martha. So that's why I speak Lingala to her. And that's why I wanted her to have an African name. So she has one, so that she can have something to hold on to as well. But yeah, I really want to talk about names because that's really important to me. And I think names is important to every single one of us, isn't it? It means a lot to us. And names is who we are. It makes us who we are. And in the last nearly 6 years, I'm learning to be Dina Lizette Williams. And then when I was telling my husband, well, where does Williams come from? Is it like a Scottish name? Because obviously he's Scottish. He's like, oh no, it's not Scottish, it's Welsh. I'm like, great. So it's not even Scottish, but it's Welsh. So I'm learning to be Dina Lizette Williams, who is still an African, but still is, I won't say English, but British. But yeah, my name, I've learned to, during the years, especially being in Europe, where when they see you got an African name, you get funny looks, you get people try not to associate with you and find it hard to pronounce and things like that. So I've gone from hating my name to trying to understand my name, try to appreciate my name, and trying to understand that this is what makes me. And for me, the click was when I found out Dina came from the Bible. I'm like, oh, it's not too bad. So it's not just an African name, it's just not a name made up in Africa. Actually, there is someone in the Bible called Dina. And then when I found out about Lingia Budi and talking to my mom and my dad about the story behind the names, I'm like, okay, there is a story behind that. There's the reason why this name is this name. And I've learned to appreciate that even now, although I'm called a Williams, I tend to say, oh yeah, I'm still a Lingia Budi. That's still part of me, that's still who I am, it's still me. And I use it to, when I want to talk about them, I'll just leave me alone. I will say Lingia Budi, especially if they don't speak my language. It's like, yeah, I could just sit here and go Lingia Budi, say everybody, they don't understand anything I'm saying. So it's like, that's the bonus, so I've learned to appreciate that. But yeah, and so I'm just going to stop talking and see what you wanted to say and just find out about your names as well. Does it mean anything? Do you know the reason why you named that name? I did a lot of Googles, to be honest, with all your names, just because I love doing that. Since doing about my own name, when I meet people, I tend to just Google the names, see what it means. So I Googled all of your names, but I won't say anything unless you know what your name means, or where it came from, or how you were named. So it'd be interesting to also hear what your names were, or if you know anything from your story anyway. So I'll leave it open now.
Feel free to unmute yourself to before she starts telling you what your name means.
I think it's fascinating. It's just it shows that from what you've said in your where you're brought up, it's the same here. I mean, my middle name, I went through a phase when I was a teenager of hating my middle name, so my middle name is Rose, which is pretty standard. But as a teenager, I didn't like it. My mum's middle name was Rose, and her mum's name, her first name was Rose. So it kind of follows through the family. I then grew to like it, and I gave it to my daughter, my eldest daughter. So she's got a middle name as Rose now, so it kind of shows how things change. But I was thinking when you're saying about kind of nicknames and things like that, and what people are called, but and family names. So my husband and I like the name Thomas. We like the name Charlotte. Didn't think anything else, because Wayne's mum was always known through all the time I've ever known her as Totty. So his mum and dad were Totty and Jack. Now they're from Wales. Now clearly, that's a name that they grew up with. We'd never thought of her with her actual name. Well, I hadn't thought of her with her actual name, because obviously she's either mum or they're called Totty. We then had our eldest daughter and called her Charlotte. And she's convinced that we called her after her because her name is Charlotte, her actual name. But she said she went with the name of Totty when she was, because Charlotte was old-fashioned in her youth, and so she didn't like it. So they all called her Totty. once we had a daughter called Totty, she found that she actually quite liked it, but nobody would call her Charlotte anymore because it's the name Charlotte, because they were so used to calling her for like 70 plus years. But yeah, so we named her from the name that we like. But yeah, so a lot of our family think that we continued that kind of tradition. But it's just, but you say I just never thought of her as being a Charlotte. So yeah, that's kind of where that came from. But yeah, so linked to history, but kind of not.
I think what I found fascinating when you're talking about African names is how they're linked to what's going on at the time. And it just made me think, we refer to the Bible and Bible names and how people's biblical names changed when their circumstances changed. Ours is actually quite boring, really, isn't it? Because you've got been given that name and you're like stuck with it forever. The thought of actually having a name that reflects the mood of your mum and dad at the time, or your grandma when you were born, but the thought that you could actually change your name at a later point and say an amazing gift of God, or a miracle of life, or ours are so boring, aren't they? So really, compared to some of those. But I think biblically people did change their name, didn't they? You know, known as when something amazing happened to people. And yeah, you might start a trend, Lizette. I'm just
I think it's a great responsibility as a parent as well, the name you give to your child, because that's the name that they don't choose, but it's the name they have to carry through life with them. And so yeah, I think that, you know, you take that kind of, you know, the child might say, like I did for a while, not liking my middle name, but the fact of the matter is that when you choose that name, that is what they're known by. And so it's, I think it's quite a responsibility to name a child.
When I used to be teaching, I was always aware of the latest trend of names. So, you know, you were saying about some people have got the famous names. They like famous people, so they call them by famous names. And I can remember one year of school teaching where I had 5 Ryans in my class, and another year, you know, and it was the popular name of that time as well. And I think people still do that now, is name their child after some pop star or film star that they admire or are in love with. So yeah, I can remember the amount of the same names that we used to get a lot of. My own name, Marion, is a derivative, I think, of Mary. And the meaning is, yeah, I've looked it up too. the meaning's bitterness. So I do hope it wasn't the mood of my parents when I was born. But I think it's more to do with the Mary story and the losing Jesus and having to see him suffer and things like that. So yeah. So there's a kind of a pride in that, but at the same time, it's not a nice name to carry forward, is it? Bitterness.
Well, that's what I told my mum. Like, I can't give my name Marila after you. It means bitterness. I'm sorry, mum. She's like, yeah, but I'm not bitter. I'm like, no, you're not. You're right.
I've got twins, and we waited a long time for them. But when I did not want to know what sex they were before they were born, which is quite unusual because most people want to know, but I didn't. And it was quite funny because I'm thinking, well, okay, so what am I going to call them? If they're 2 boys, if one's a boy and a girl, or one's both girls, you see. So I had all these names, and I had the second names because I wanted to honour my sister with one of the names. And yeah, if they were girls, obviously, which they are. But it was really funny because in the hospital, I had all these names. One thing they always ask you is, and what's the name? I'm thinking, well, I don't know. I don't know until they come out because I don't know what they're going to be. So they, you know, they took one. Here is it. You've got a girl. I've got a baby. That's Imogen. And Olivia was the second one. But it was quite funny because you end up by saying, well, no, it's this one and that one, or number 1 and number 2. You abbreviate it. It's like strange. But I wanted the names that were special, and I believe this is, well, I think, well, I read it at the time, and I thought it meant God's precious gift, and God's, and again with Olivia, you know, someone precious in God's sight, you know, so they were equal in meaning, but, you know, different. I didn't want names that like matched each other, you know, like Roberto, that sort of thing. And I know wanted different names, but yeah, so that's my two. But yeah, but my second name is Carol. My first name is Anne, obviously you can see, but my second name is Carol. And I believe Anne means, I don't know what, I think something to do with grace. I don't know what it actually means. I'm not very graceful, but you know. But my second name, Carol, comes from my auntie, who unfortunately passed away about 4 years ago. And so, but it's quite uncanny. I have a lot of my mannerisms. They were exactly the same as my auntie's, my mum's sister. And I love that, you know, I love that I was like my auntie, because I loved my auntie. And yeah, so there we go.
I can relate to that, because obviously I'm named after my nan, and my uncle always calls me mum, so his mum, because as far as he's concerned, I'm really taken off. I am exactly like her, like the way I order people around, the way I dance, everything about me. He's like, you're just like the person that named you. You really are her. So it freaks me out a little bit sometimes, because it's like, oh, you know, because I don't really know her that when I left when I was 6, I didn't really get the chance to be around my grandparents a lot, to be, you know, to know them. But it freaks me out that the fact that people can actually see her in me, if that makes sense. And yeah, I was gonna say, Anne, so in Africa, because you have twins,
Yes,
they will call you Mama Pasa. So you won't be called Anne anymore. You will just be called Mama Pasa, which means the twin mothers.
oh
Yeah, so that's like, yeah, Mama Pasa. So it means you won't be called Anne anymore. They'll just be calling you Mama Pasa, and that's how you'll be known. Like, yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? I'd have to change my passport, wouldn't I?
Yes.
That's the thing with African name, is that some names, that's why legal she's really going for it. Legal stuff is we're not really great at it, because you only change your passport to be called Mama Pasa. Yes, you just be called Mama Pasa, and that's it. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, she's causing trouble now. Oh yeah.
Bless her.
Did anyone else just Google what their name means? I've never Googled what my name means, but my name is Greek and it means hospitable. But,
Yes.
or it could be Russian, but I'm just getting a little story that both my name is Zena and my brother's name is Carl, and my dad was a photographer, and we were actually named after camera lenses. So my brother was Carl Zeiss. Actually, that sounds quite African, doesn't it? And I was Zena, as in the Russian camera lens. So and they quite like the name. So I said it was boring, but it isn't really, is it?
But that's the thing, though. Once you try to dig into it, you find out it's not that boring, actually, is it? It's quite fascinating to know how your parents named you and where you came from, you know.
We've got people in the country who are called after the month that they were born in, like April or May.
Yes.
A lot of names like that.
And,
or
and June,
because it was Christmas, or Star, or
my mom's cousins has 2 boys who were both born on Christmas Day, so 2 years apart. So the first one is called Noel, which is no. And then the second one's called Louis Noel. So she's added a little bit of fun, because obviously they're both born in Christmas time. And we were talking about it in the car, because we're listening to the radio, and someone was saying, did you know that if your name No, it might be because you were born around Christmas time? And people were calling and said, actually, I didn't know that. And I've just found out now. I called my mom, and mom's like, yeah, you're born around Christmas time. That's why you're called that. So it's just interesting. People just, you know, suddenly like, oh, yeah, that clicks, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think it's also it's quite strange, but when I had my son Adam, he's ancient now, but when he wasn't, I was best friends with another lady who was pregnant as well, and we were going to have our babies roughly at the same time, and neither of us told each other the names that we'd chosen on purpose, really. I don't know why, but we just didn't. But she had her little boy first, and she called him James. But that was my name for my little boy. So it put me in an absolute dilemma. What am I going to call him now? So I looked at the book. Oh, Adam, I love Adam. I'll call him Adam, the first man.
Yeah.
So it's quite funny. But it was a bit of a dilemma at the time because I really wanted James. So Adam is Adam James.
Yeah.
You know, we called him that. Yeah.
I really wanted Esther from Martha, but because I love the story of Esther. It's like my favorite book in the Bible. But we have 2 Esthers in my family. So I'm like, no, I'm not doing that to the girls. So I'm like, but it's a name that I really love. I'm like, next time if I ever have a girl get Paul, I don't care. I'm naming her Esther. I don't care if we have 2 or not. It's the name that I like. We're giving her name. So it's, and I also realized that sometimes you realize the names that you hate. You don't want to name your child according to a name because there's someone at school that you used to hate that goes according to their name. You had a hard time with, you're like, no, I didn't get on with that girl, so I can't name her that name. It's quite fascinating, isn't it?
And it's also, sorry.
Again, so my husband is one of 8 children, and our children were kind of the last ones to come along. So by the time we had Tom, there were already 17 grandchildren on his side of the family. So we're kind of running out some of the names to choose from, really, but we managed. But when we had Victoria, so Victoria was our youngest, so again, further down the line, and we called her Victoria. And when I was at school, obviously picking Tom up from school, and one of the children at the school said, "Oh, what's your baby's name?" So it's Victoria. "Oh, is she named after Posh Spice?" I had to say no, she wasn't. Yeah. So.
Victoria is a nice African name because it's Victor, isn't it? We love that. We love that kind of name. It's Victor. Yeah, definitely a nice African name there. Yeah. When I saw him, like, the Victoria is definitely going to be a famous name in Africa because we love victory and Victor and Victoria, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I love the African name Blessing. I think that's lovely.
Yeah, but we have Blessing as well, so I can't give it that. There's Blessing because everybody loves that. I think it's Blessing, Joy. What's the other one? Faith. What else is there? So those kind of names, because those kind of names are that every African seems to take. It's like, oh yeah. So that's how I went with a proper African my language. So Matondo, which means thankfulness. I thought there's not that many people around called Matondo, so that would do. But then I still get people saying, "Oh, did you name it after this person?" And that person, like, no, just like that. But yeah. Right.
I'm fascinated by the ones called Pain and You're Lying.
That's my mum.
Yeah, you want to grow up with a name like that.
My mum has, but I think my mum, the reason why she kept it is because her grandmother was called Pain as well anyway. So despite the fact that she was Pain, she named the granddaughter Pain as well. So she kept that because she was really close to that grandmother, so she kept that name, but she let go of the other one. But yeah, my mum, Vunana means pain. So none of the other name means Siona means pain, and then she's got You're Lying. She's got Lying Pain. I'm laughing now, but I think she finds it funny. So yeah, she's got Witness, she's got Mary, which is bitter, and then Pain and Lying. So yeah. So who else have we not heard from? So we know what Marion means. We've had Anne, we had Ellen. Of course, so I just gone through my list.
Yeah,
Janet.
I did give her all your names.
We have Janet.
Mine's God is gracious, apparently, but it comes from the Jane.
Oh,
So,
that's nice.
Yeah. And I don't know why my mum and dad picked it, but I do know the same as there was somebody else expecting at the same time, and they'd not decided on names, and then we were both born on the same day, and they both gave us the same name, Janice. And then when they met in the street, they'd both bought exactly the same prams without realising as well.
So there is something nice behind the story. There's something nice behind that story. Yeah. So I got here, Janet means God is gracious. There we go. And it's Scottish. Maybe I should name Martha Janet, just to tie the little Scottishness in her. we try our best to sort of let her have both both culture, so she knows both, because as far as we're concerned, she's just as much as white as she's black. So we're really trying to balance that so that she has a bit of so we're trying to take her to Scotland soon so that she can see a bit of Scotland and have a bit of haggis, and then trying to teach her a bit of Scottish dancing. Because at the moment she's full of sorry?
I said good luck with that.
Yeah, my mother can do that. That's fine. I told them I'll do the African bit, you guys do the Scottish bit. You know, I'll do my part. You guys do the Scottish stuff. You can teach her anything that's Scottish. You know, so yeah. I'm trying to see. I think we said everybody else's name, haven't we? Have we missed someone?
I'm just googling Maurice.
Oh,
had you googled Maurice?
no. Oh, I've got no. Let me.
I was named after my sister. Just before I was born, was in hospital for a few months. She had to have an operation, which at that time was very rare and a little bit nasty. And when they let her out for Christmas, and I was born, and so I was named after her nurse.
Oh,
Looked after her.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's from it's Japanese origin.
Yeah.
It means headless. Yeah.
Headless.
No. Endless.
Endless.
All right.
She just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's not bad. I might keep this list of names for the next one. You never know. Just don't tell Paul. But yeah.
I think it's interesting having lots of names, but I was always pleased as a schoolgirl that I was one of the few in the class that only had one name. I didn't have any middle names at all. And it was rare, so I was special because I only had one name.
Me too. I've only got one name as well.
Yeah. And it was strange at the time because everybody had middle, and my boys have both got middle names, but I wouldn't have given them. We've got an Adam as well, Anne, and it was because he was our firstborn that he was called Adam. And his middle name's David because he was born on St. David's Day. He was actually born at midnight, and we could choose which of the 2 days to have him. So we chose the 1st of March, St. David's Day, so he was called Adam David. And Tom, our second boy, is called Tom James, but we didn't name him. In fact, when I was in the maternity hospital having Tom, and we had no name, he was baby James in the hospital. Baby Fripp in the hospital. And when we got home, everybody was calling him Tom. And we said, where have you got the name Tom from? Oh, well, Adam told us he's called Tom James. So he'd been, taking the phone calls. Oh, you've got a little baby brother. What's he called? Oh, he's called Tom James. Well, we didn't know. But that's who he is now.
That's brilliant. I remember when Paul proposed to me and I started getting used to my head to the name Williams. And then I'm like, going to college, because Lindia Budi means that you're kind of halfway between the alphabet. So you're not the first, you're not the last, you're just halfway. And then I realized I'm going to be called Williams, which means on commission day, I'll be lost to go and get.
Yeah, back in the queue.
Waited until after commissioning. Because I was the last one to get commissioned. It doesn't really matter when you're commissioned, but I was the last one to get commissioned. I'm like, I didn't think about that before I did that. I should have start reading their body first, then get married to Williams. So that's something I'm like, I remember one of my session mates saying, I'm so glad that you married Paul because you're not Williams, which means I'm not the last one, you're the last one.
Yeah, you're even after me.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, what happens now? I'm not really sure what happens now. Yeah, I had like a little thought, because obviously when I think about names, I think one day I remember my mum reading something to me from the Bible. That's Isaiah 43, you probably know it, 1-2. And she read it and she used my name on it. So she says, but now, this is what the Lord says, he who created you, Lizette. So instead of saying Jacob, she said Lizette. And that moment, I'm like, oh, is there written Lizette in the Bible? I started checking, but it made so much me that she said, but now this is what the Lord says, he who created you, Zena, Jane, Marion, Heather, Janice, Ellen, Anne, and Mary. So just having your name, it just made like, oh my days, he formed you And she goes, Lizette. I'm like, it really stuck with me. And then he goes, I said, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not see you ablaze. And that passage definitely stays with me, because my mom used my name on that, and that really stuck with me into today. I go back to it very often. And the song that I kind of relate to that is, and he knows my name. I have a maker. He formed my heart before even time began. My life was in his hand. He knows my name. He knows my every thought. He sees each tear that falls, and he hears me when I call. I have a father. He calls me his own. He would never leave me, no matter where I go. And I think a lot of Africans kind of relate to that, because sometimes our names being pain or sorrow, you know that you have a father who knows you, who loves you, who created you, who calls you by name. He calls you my child, my beloved child. And so names are important to us, but we have someone who knows us, and he calls us his child. I think that's the most important name we could ever have, isn't it? Being a child of God. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to sort of share with you as well. Just that we are all God's precious children, and he loves us, and he knows us.
Thank you
so much, Lizette. Thank you. It's been interesting to hear, and I like the idea of having so many names, having graphic names. And if you were born in Africa, would you be Pancake Day, as in St. David's Day? There is a joke, isn't there, about if you've been born on Pancake Day, or I don't know. The possibilities are endless, but as you say, we are all children of God, and he knows us by name, whether we're called Zena Maurice or You're a Liar, and he would still love us anyway. So thank you so much. Is there anyone who would just like to close, just say a quick prayer before we go? Thank you, Marianne. Oh no, you were coughing.
I was switching myself off because I got
Okay.
off, but I'm happy to pray. Of course I am.
Thank you.
Father God, thank you for this evening, for the way that we've been able to meet together in this Zoom meeting. Thank you for the technology that's enabled it and the minds behind that technology. But thank you that as we have met together, we've been friends straight away. We've enjoyed each other's company. We've learned things about each other, and we have shared you. And we're so grateful that you know all about us, and nothing can separate us from your love. And we thank you that you know us by name. We treasure that thought, and I just pray that each one of us will come to that thought whenever we feel as if we're on our own, or in any circumstance that's challenging, that we'll just remember that you know us so well, and you love us, and we can't be separated from that love. So continue to be with us, we pray, as we separate from this Zoom meeting and go to do something else. I just pray that you'll bless and keep each one of us. Amen. Amen.
Amen.